It's important to understand blood sugar levels, but why? Because a few years ago, this is something I didn't know or really care about, didn't think it applied to me. I just kind of ate what I wanted to eat, understanding I needed some vegetables and not too much sugar, some of the basics. I kind of just thought of it, my stomach and body's like a garbage disposal, right? Like we eat what we want, we eat out when we want soda, we want these things, and it just filters through our body and leaves when it wants to leave, right? And then it was like, okay, wait, I don't like how I'm feeling. I don't like how I'm storing body fat and I can't get rid of it. Something has to do with my nutrition, right? So that's when I started diving into understanding blood sugar levels. So I want to do like a very base here, right? And I've got other, information on my membership site and things where I'll go into more in depth. But the base is just having a good knowledge of, okay, if I eat that food, what is it going to do to my body? How am I going to feel? Is it going to use it? Is it going to be stored as body fat, right? When it's broken down, what happens? So we've got to remember that carbs, right, are broken down, they're sugar, and it's broken down to glucose. And you've got simple carbs and complex carbs. Simple carbs are broken down, we eat them and it floods into the bloodstream very quickly into the body within maybe 30 minutes. And that's anything that's a simple carb. That's a lot of our basic sugars, candies, treats, fruit, right? Then we've got our complex carbs that take a lot longer, up to a couple hours to break down and digest. A lot of our grains. That's why we feel more full, having a small piece of candy, Snickers bar that goes right through your system, versus a whole grain, right? And it feels a little more full for longer. So you've got to look at, okay, the types of food we're eating are flooding the body, right, with sugar immediately, especially a lot of these things, soda, things that are just simple carbs. So it goes through your system and it's in the stomach, right? It's got to be filtered through the bloodstream now. So the sugar is broken into glucose and it's now into the bloodstream, and the bloodstream can only hold so much glucose, right? This sugar basically, up to about a teaspoon. So when we eat so many carbs and simple carbs, especially that are flooding the system at once, your body's going to respond in a certain way. And so when we have just a straight carb, let's say just a plain Snickers bar, a piece of cake, a soda, right? Anything, glass of alcohol, anything, it's going to come in our system very quickly. Now that's a simple carb. There's also no fiber with it. It's not paired with a protein or a fat that will also slow down digestion. So it's just whoosh. Think of like a sink, right? A sink that's not clogged. If you've got girls, you understand that sink's gonna have hair down it. It's gonna make the water filter down it a lot slower, right? Well, this is a sink with no girls and no hair. That water's gonna go straight down the sink very quickly. And that's great, except the bloodstream now is overloaded with sugar and glucose. And because it can only hold so much at a time, it's gotta do something with that, right? And so think of Pac-Man, because I like analogies. You've got insulin it's a hormone created by the pancreas. It's gonna come into the bloodstream and it's gonna eat up the glucose and it's gonna do something with it and it's gonna shuttle it into the cells. Now, if we continue to have too much coming into our system too fast and the body's like, we're on overload, right? You've got too much glucose in the bloodstream and it slows Pac-Man down. It just literally can't do it. We wipe them out, too tired, right? And they say, hey, I'm off for the day. So then we become insulin resistant. And the body's like, hey, insulin is not now pulling, right, the glucose into a cell. It's now stuck in the bloodstream. It's going to be massive problems. What do? It stores it as fat, right? So now we've got extra fat storage. Also, because the process is not working very well, our body, when it says, hey, I need fuel, I need energy, right? We want to pull from fat storage. Well, insulin's not working properly, so we don't pull as much from fat storage. And so there really is an understanding to, oh my gosh, the foods I eat will impact my body and how my body runs. And so we've got to look at how many carbs are we eating, the type of carbs we're eating, how we're eating those carbs, and if we're eating just straight sugar often with no buffer of like fiber, because fiber, think of your sink that has girls and maybe hair, right? So go with the analogy here, because it will slow down the water going down the sink, right? That hair is fiber. It's going to slow it down so it's not just a burst of sugar into the bloodstream. Now it's trickling. And so that's great. The body can handle it and stay on top of it. And we do that, right? Fiber, vegetables, fruit, but also think if we add the fiber first with what we're eating in an order of how we're eating our meal, and then the protein, and then the fat, and then that straight carb last, for instance, the bread, right? Dessert, think noodles, things that are more carb, have those towards the end of the meal, because then your stomach's gonna be full of everything that's gonna act as the hair in the drain and slow down the sugar rushing to the bloodstream. So again, you just have to look at, okay, so how do I pair my meals? How do I eat these foods? So if you wanna have a piece of candy or a treat or a soda or whatever it is, just have fiber first, or at least something else. A second resort would be protein or a healthy fat, and it will slow down that rate of sugar flooding into your system. Because another thing is, it's gonna impact your energy levels. It's gonna impact the blood glucose, the spikes. And that's what we want to talk about. So when you have a piece of sugar or a carb right by itself, it's going to flood through the system very quickly. What it's going to do is it's going to go spike up because all of this is coming to the bloodstream. And then once it does something with it, it's going to spike, it's going to crash down. So your body's coming up and down, up and down. Not good for many, many reasons. What we want to do is we eat the carb and then it kind of is a low spike, not a high spike, right? So we're low and then it's going to be moderate in time and then back down instead of whoosh, 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 whoosh. Do you like that? That works though, right? We want to avoid these. So we got to be smart with how we eat, because every time we have one of these, we're going to crash. This is the crash. We come down from the sugar high and then you feel like I need more sugar because now I have no energy. So if you feel lethargic, lack of focus, brain fog, just tired, crashing at 3 p.m., moody, right? And not only that, but it's long-term impacts that this has on our body, from heart disease, kidney disease, vision impairment. Like there's a lot of things, diabetes, right? All of these things come from not regulating our sugar intake, right? Glucose in the bloodstream. We want to avoid the spikes because that's what's doing all those symptoms I just mentioned. So you want steady energy levels. You don't want the crashes. You want to feel good and nourish your body throughout the entire day. So there's a few things, and we've mentioned a few things that we can do. One, look at what you're eating, right? If we're eating straight carbs and sugar for a majority of the day, whether it's breads, cupcakes, cookies, rice, noodles, I mean, it can be anything, fruits, vegetables, right? Some more nutrient dense, some less nutrient dense, right? And I do think you need to have some of all of it. I have a treat that's plain straight sugar with no nutritional value every single day because it brings me joy and I don't feel restricted. Now that's a small part of the diet, right? A small percent of the day. The rest of my carbs are healthy whole grains and fruits and vegetables to get the fiber. And I do monitor my amount of fruits. The fruits that have the least impact on the crash, because it's still sugar, right, are berries. And so I like to have my berries, and I'll do literally a bowl of blueberries and raspberries, strawberries, and blackberries. And I enjoy those. And I pair them with my eggs in the morning, right? So that fruit's not going to be the first thing in my system because that's going to flood, right? Think of no hair in your drain, right into the bloodstream. And my crash is going to be like this. So I have my eggs with my meat and my healthy fat with avocado, some maybe green peppers and onion, right? And I eat that first, and then I finish with the fruit, because now the fruit is just going to trickle in my bloodstream. So the order that we eat food is also really important. Now think of breakfast. A lot of times I hear people say, well, I have whole wheat English muffin and I'll have a glass of orange juice and an apple. In theory, that's healthy, right? That's what we think, because it's a lot better than the bowl of Lucky Charms cereal or, whatever else we would be having. But we've got to remember that food has an impact. Yes. Are there some nutritional value from the grain of the English muffin? Absolutely. But when I'm looking at all three of those things are sugar, and they're going to go right into our system all at the same time. And our crash is going to be like this. So ideally, we have something savory for breakfast, especially first thing in the morning. You don't want to start your day with the crashes, right? And so that's why we always suggest something like eggs, something that's dense, that's protein, that's healthy fats, that doesn't impact our blood sugar levels. And then when you do have something like fruit, right? If you want to have orange juice, great. It's just we're missing the fiber. So maybe have an orange instead, then you get the actual benefit of the fruit instead of just the juice and the sugars. And then you get to enjoy your day because you're not going to feel those energy crashes all day because you looked at the type of food you're eating and how you're eating it. So just think, this is a sugar. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not at all. I'm saying how much of it you're eating and in what order are you eating, knowing that that sugar is going to do something to your body. And just always think of, I need a fiber first, right? So have your salad first. That's going to be the hair in the drain. It's going to be the roughage, and it's not going to allow the sugar to come and flood your system and then cause all those unnecessary symptoms, right? Side effects that we all feel, crash at 3 p.m. And that's why I always pair my snacks with something. So if I have a piece of fruit, I'm also going to have a cheese stick or a protein beef stick or a handful of nuts. And I eat those things first, and then I have the sugar after. If I have a piece of cake, great, have a piece of cake for your treat for the day, but have something with fiber right before that, handful of carrots. I mean, I've got a Costco carton of lettuce, right? The mixed greens, I'll have a little handful of that, or a small little teeny salad. And then I can eat my sugar from the cake, knowing it's not gonna do as much of a spike, right? And I won't have as much of an impact. Now, calories, right? Calories are calories. We're not talking about how many calories and body fat loss or gain from the food amount. That's looking at a total number of how much we're eating, another topic. We're looking, how does that food impact my body and how I feel, right? What's it gonna do to my insulin levels? So after we eat something, what are a couple quick tips? One, you've got all that glucose in your bloodstream now, right? The body wants to do something with it. Allow it to be shuttled to the muscles, because the body wants to use it for something, use it as fuel. So too often we eat and then we just sit. So that's what they always say, like recommend eating right after a meal. I always suggest that because then you're going to take those carbs and that glucose, you're going to give the body something to do with it instead of storing it as body fat and then overwhelming the body. So if you can walk immediately after a meal, that is one of the best things. If not, two things I suggest. One is calf raises or bodyweight squats. 25 of them. Calf raises are probably one of the best. That muscle is one that pulls the glucose out. The uptake is so much better than any other muscle. So that's what they say on a good, better, best, right? If you have an ability, do calf raises because it's gonna pull that out even better. And just stand up against a wall, push down through the big toe and calf raise up and down 20-25. And it will help pull that out and it will give it somewhere to go, right? And if not, you don't wanna do that, do maybe 20-25 air squats. Again, giving it somewhere to go. All of those are ideal. That's why I always like to walk after I eat because I help disperse it everywhere. We talked about the order of our food, always eat your fiber first. And then just be mindful of how much we're eating, right? Be mindful of what it does to your body. We want you to feel your very best, right? That's what's most important, is I want you to feel better, because the more you feel better, you're gonna show up better as a spouse, as a parent, as an employee, as a friend, right? And we all know that. It's hard enough with the hormones of a woman, trying to figure out how I feel every day and entering perimenopause and all those things. And so if I can at least understand if I eat this is what it's gonna do to me. Okay, let me make a better choice. I'm gonna pair a protein or a fat with it, right? I'm gonna walk afterwards. I'm gonna get my calf raises in. Just little subtle things that we can focus on to make us feel better so we see the results that we want.